Online purchasing, it's a convenient way to shop, but it can also be pretty dangerous as well. Recent data from the BBB shows online purchase scams make up 30% of all scams reported, with nearly 72% resulting in some kind of financial loss. Well, we want you to be protected from the scammers out there, so we have Lachelle Yates from the Better Business Bureau with us today, and she's breaking down some of the top scams that they're seeing, what you need to watch out for. She's also taking your questions. Here's how you get your question to her. You text us that question. The number is 336-379-5775. You can also get your question answered in real time. It's anonymous, but you get your question answered in real time. All right, so let's talk about, first and foremost, Lachelle, you guys just wrapped up a whole report of scams reported to BBB and the tracker in 2022. So some of these results are kind of surprising about like who's most at risk.
You know, a lot of times we have preconceptions about who's most at risk and who falls for the most scams. And it actually turns out that people ages 18 to 24 lost the most money in 2022. $220 was the median amount they lost. And that's up from $170 in 2021. And people ages 35 to 54 were the most susceptible to scams. And people 65 plus were the least susceptible. And I bet that those are some numbers that you wouldn't necessarily have thought were true.
No, for sure. When I look at those age groups, the 35 to 54 most susceptible, any reason why we think they're most susceptible versus what we used to think was over 65?
No, I think possibly maybe those folks over 65 have seen a lot of these scams and they're knowing what some of the signs are. And, you know, it's also most folks are shopping a lot more online, and so they're being exposed to online shopping scams a lot more than maybe some of the folks that are over 65 who aren't shopping quite as much.
Okay. All right. So earlier we mentioned online scams being the most common, and you just talked about that a little bit. But what are some of the statistics surrounding the report when it comes to like the losses and things of that nature?
Well, online shopping turned out to be the riskiest scam for the third year in a row, and the median dollar loss is $100. And the issues that people are running into is either getting a product that isn't what they ordered at all, or worse, getting no product at all. And the best way to protect yourself with an online shopping scam is to use your credit card, because you have so many more protections with a credit card than you do with a debit card. With a debit card, your institution is the one that decides how and if you're going to get your money back, where with a credit card, you do have those federal protections that say you do have the right to dispute a charge.
All right, and I want to make sure everybody hears that loud and clear. The debit card, even used as a credit card, is not the same as just a true credit card. And let's just kind of go down the 101 of why that is.
Well, I mean, you've got those federal protections in place that stipulate that you are allowed to dispute a charge, where you don't have those same protections with the debit charge. Again, it's up to your institution if and how you're going to be allowed to dispute that charge. But also realize that if you use a credit card, it's the credit card institution who's out the money, where if you used a debit card, it's your money that's tied up. And that can take weeks for that to get all figured out. Whereas at least with a credit card, you're not waiting for that money to be reimbursed to you. You could go ahead and spend that money if you needed to order the item again, for example.
Yeah, it's awful when your bank account is compromised in any way, shape, or form. All right, let's talk about one scam type that the BBB is really keeping a close eye on, and that's employment scams. So let's go down the list, kind of like, how do they work?
Well, and first I'll say, I mean, really, you need to keep an eye out for employment scams, because this scam came roaring back in 2022. It is the second riskiest scam in 2022, and we expect it to continue to be a risky scam in 2023. And so here's what you need to look for. So first, the interviews happen by app. Never in person, never face to face. Con artists don't like to show their face. And then you're going to see that they have a really great salary, a ridiculously good salary, in fact. And also, you're going to be hired immediately. And, you know, you might think you're really well qualified, but I mean, this is really immediately. So you watch out for that. And then once you're hired, you're going to get a check, and that's to buy equipment and supplies. But you have to buy from a specific vendor. Here's where the scam part comes in. The vendor is the scammer, and you're actually going to be spending your own money, because that check they gave you is fake. You don't find that out for a couple weeks, as it takes time for that check to make its way through the banking system. But in the end, it was your money you spent. The bank is not going to reimburse you for the money. You are on the hook for that money. And there's another danger too, is not just the loss of money, but think about all of the information that you've given out on that employment form. You've given out your social security number, your date of birth, your driver's license number. Those are the key to your identity. And we've had people tell us that they have actually had their identity stolen from one of these employment scams.
Yeah, and I think people would say that with the employment scam and whatever else, if I got that check and the bank cashed it, then they shouldn't be on the hook. But that is not how it works, and that's not how it's worked for a long time.
No, and that's a misconception that we have, is that when the check goes in our account and the money appears, that money is really there. And that is simply not the case. It can take up to 2 weeks for it to wind its way through the banking system and for it to be detected as fake. And really, the bank is going to come back to you and say, you owe that money. I'm sorry you already spent it, but it is up to you to reimburse the bank for that money. So you really want to be careful. And some of the things that you can do to protect yourself is, one, realize if you're doing the interview by app, it's a scam. If the salary is too good to be true, it's a scam. And, if you get one of those checks, just make sure that you aren't cashing it and being aware that that is one of the hallmarks of a scam.
So no face-to-face interview, scam, salary too good to be true, scam, and scrutinize that email address. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so if you are dealing with somebody and their email address is hr@gmail.com, that is a huge red flag. It should be HR@such and such company. And that's also something to look out for, is scammers usually will try to impersonate a real company. We've had that happen to some companies right here in the Triad. So if you find a job that you're interested in, go online, go to the company's website, search it out yourself, see if the job that you're interested in is listed on their website. Even call the HR people and see if the job is real, because they will try to impersonate real companies to try to get you hooked.
All right, and so we want to make sure that you know that you can ask your question. The number there, 336-379-5775. We're going to be talking about some home improvement scams as well. Spring is quickly approaching, which means a lot of us start home improvement projects. Is there a certain scam centered around contractors?
There are home improvement scams, unfortunately, out there, and some things to look out for here. When a home improvement scam works like this, you hire a contractor, they ask you to put down a pretty hefty deposit, and then they do some work, or maybe none at all, and then they ask you, then they never show up, or they don't do enough work for you to really have gotten your money's worth out of the deposit that you've paid. So what you really want to be careful with is, one, we would say use a BBB accredited contractor. We have checked their license to make sure that they are licensed to do the work. We say if you see the BBB legendary seal, it's the sign of a better business. We've done the work for you. Also, make sure you get 3 estimates. That way you're paying a fair price for the work. And also, you want to be sure that you are paying the smallest amount possible. That way, if there is an issue, you aren't out that much money, but also pay with a credit card if possible. Again, that way, if you need to dispute the charge, you can.
Okay. All right, we're going to continue on this. We're going to talk about electrician scammers and other things, as well as your questions. We'll be coming back right after this.